Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Swing. Today we're going to talk about positions in the swing, specifically in the backswing. So we're going to start with takeaway. We're going to get to the back of the top of the swing, and then we're going to work our way down to what we should be feeling as we come into impact. There's a lot of different ways to look at it, but in normal golf swing, position 1, position 2. But I personally feel like position 2 should be here, and this is why. So what determines a position is a change in direction, right? So we move from position 1 to position 2. But what happens is when we're doing position 1 to 2, we kind of move all in one motion. I think it should be a little bit different than that. So because what I'm wanting to do is that I'm going from position 1 to position 2, I feel tightness right here. So I have no leg movement. I want to create a little bit more leg movement in position 2. So what I like to do is I like to do that. So position 1, position 2. So we'll just call it 1.5 because nobody else calls it position 2. So position 1, position 2. So it's basically that movement of, you might not be able to see it from right there. So position 1 to position 2. What that allows you to do is, if you've seen in some of my previous videos, I really struggled with this move right here, which automatically tendency to get like rotating this way, which is way inside. So so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a better position at the start, then get to position 2, then to 3, then ultimately to 4. So what we want to work on is when we're setting up to the ball, if you watched the previous video, you saw setup. So we want to set up properly, get our weight balanced, knees over the balls of our feet, find our center of mass, kind of relax shoulders. And what we want to do is we want to just work on that takeaway. As you can see, my legs are not moving in that first part of that swing. And I like that because what it's doing is we're creating separation, shoulders from your hips. So we're tightening that core to create a little bit more power. Power is what we all seek, and this will really help you. So as we come into the ball, we're set up nicely. We're finding our center of mass. And what we want to do is just work on that. You can do this at home. You can do this from anywhere. And what that does is it just gets your body used to doing that first 2 foot of takeaway. But what is happening is my legs are staying still. But when I get into position 2, that's when my knee starts to straighten. So we're going here, tight, knee straightens a little bit. And then from here, we're going straight up. And that's where a lot of people miss the connection right there. So they're coming here, and they're automatically wanting to get back here. You don't need to do that. You want to keep what we talked about before, we want to keep that triangle, right? Once we get to the top of swing, that triangle can break down slightly to create more power. But as you're coming back down into position 5, we want to connect that triangle back together and work it through impact. So as you all are working on your takeaway, you want to find your line. And I always say, like, if you're just practicing, starting out every practice session with 10 to 20 of these is a great way to start because it just gets your body and your mind, more importantly, used to that move. You can see a lot of instructors, they'll put a alignment rod right here, and they want you to kind of follow that alignment rod. But what happens is, watch what happens if I go ahead and start my turn of my hips. See how far inside I get? That's what we want to kind of prevent. Because what that does is it either gets us here, and we're just kind of throwing our hands out like this, but more often than not, we're way back here, so our brain is telling us we got to straighten this back up. And we come over the top, and then that's what creates all that mess. So what I want you to do is I want you to really work on starting at position 1. we're going to get to 2, but in the way to get to 2 is 1.5. 1.5. And so what you want to do is you want to get from ball position, you want to just get right over your right thigh. Legs do not move at this point. We're creating that separation between our shoulders and our hips to generate more power. So, as we get into the swing, 1, 2, 3. Now we feel pretty good. It's going right back. Now we're going to get to position 2. See, I'm moving, then I'm getting there. And just slow movements at home, just like what I'm doing. I'm not hitting the ball. I'm just doing slow movements. As you can see, I'm exactly where I want to be at 2. Then we go to 3. Hands are still in front of the chest. And then we're straightening that leg and getting to 4. Some people break down, have the ability to break down a little bit more. But as we're coming back into 5, this is the load. So we're loading. Too many people are starting their turn here. We don't want to start our turn here. We want to load. And that's very difficult for me too. I struggle with that all the time where I'm trying to hit the ball so hard, and you don't need to. Your body has enough power. If you allow your arms to follow your body, you're going to generate the most power you've ever generated in your golf swing. And so what we want to continue to do is 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And getting to there, if you can work on that, 20, 30, 40 times a day, that you're just getting your brain used to that movement. And that's what we want to start to get to. Whoa. Unless you do a hosel rocket like that. Lord have mercy. And don't be afraid to do that. It's like sometimes you're going to do that. Sometimes as you're trying new moves and you're messing around with it, you're going to have awful shots like that. As you can see, I hit it right on the heel. That was better. So again, look at my path here. That gets your path started on such a good position. That is what is key to getting that neutral path. If you can get to a neutral path, you're going to play really, really good golf. And that is what our ultimate goal is. For those of you who like to draw the ball, maybe you want a +1 or +2 path with a slightly closed face. A lot of it's just based on what we like. Some of you who want to cut, well, we want a -1 or -2 path and just a slight open face. So again, don't do the hosel rocket like I just did. Wow, that was bad. So get that going back. Our legs are staying still. And look at that. Just so straight, so down the line. And it's because we're doing the right things at setup. Now, as we move into this series, we're not going to go any further than this today because there's so much more that we're going to talk about as we come down in the swing. So tomorrow we'll work on 1, 2, then we're going to get to 3 and 4, but we're going to work on 5 and 6 because that is the load. The load is so confusing to people because when we're coming here, we're already shifting into this mode. Remember, butt against the wall, load, that puts our hips in a good position, and then we're firing, turning our belt buckle towards the target. But to finish up today, all I want you to do is I want you to set up to the ball, find your center of mass. I always say slightly behind the balls of my feet is probably where my center of mass is. For shorter players, it may be different. We never want to be out on the toes. We never want to be on the heels. We want to find that center mass, get a good balance, and then we want to work on 1, 2, 3, keeping all of that straight. We're not doing anything because we're not doing this. We're not doing any of this. All we want to do is get to that position, and then we're going to get to 2, and then we're going to go up to 3. Again, still in front of my chest, and then as I turn, there we go, and then we're starting to get into the drop down, and then the turn in tomorrow's episode. So, as always, I'm a big advocate of practicing with a purpose. Don't just go out there and endlessly hit balls and expect to get better. You have to understand what you're doing and why you're making the mistakes that you are. So getting on the indoor, getting on a TrackMan, getting on a simulator, seeing your numbers based on your path, and then as you work on those takeaways, that's gonna really help improve your path, and then we can start working on face, and then it's game on from there. So as always, thank you for watching. Come visit us here at 24 Golf. If you're in the local area, it's just an unbelievable way to practice and get better at your game, so you can go out there on the golf course and play some good golf and just enjoy the game better. So thank you so much for watching. This is Inside the Swing. I'm Jeremy Lee. We'll see you on the tee.